I do want to ask about some of the other folks who show up who maybe didn't care. I'm talking about Curt Hennig. He's going to wrestle David Flair in an axe on a pole match. Axe on a pole match. Here's the write-up directly from the Observer. Hennig and David Flair had an early worst match of the year candidate with an axe on a pole match, which was never mentioned in either advertising or even on the show until you could see workers putting poles on one of the posts. Hennig, for whatever reason, was supposed to win, but he decided against climbing the pole. Apparently, he told Chris Vaughn before the match that in case he didn't want to climb the pole, he'd signal him, and he did only about 2 minutes into the match. Flair had regressed badly since coming to OVW, and people have remarked that it appears he just doesn't care. Hennig clearly feels this thing is beneath him and shows up in body, but never in spirit, to the point where he's worthless. But this guy set a new record for lack of effort. After the match, Flair laid out Hennig by hitting him with a bag containing a mystery foreign object. And before the match, Hennig was once again talking about taking down Lesnar on the airplane. Hennig did a radio interview a few days later and blasted the company for not giving him more input into the storylines and made it appear he wasn't going to come back. Man, lot to unpack here. What do you remember about Curt here and his quote unquote lack of effort?
This wasn't the Curt that I met in 1989, 90, 88, 89, 90. But it just wasn't the same Curt. That's really the best way to say it. It wasn't the same Curt. His heart wasn't into it by any stretch of the imagination. You know, the reality of the Mr. Perfect days, and then, you know, a lot of times at WCW, does Eric ever comment on that? I'm just as it's coming across our discussion points. A lot of times at WCW, you could tell that Curt's heart wasn't in it at WCW as well. He just wasn't the same guy of the Mr. Perfect Curt Hennig or the AWA World Heavyweight Champion Curt Hennig. His heart was not into this at all. Him and my dad had a really good relationship, I think, more than anything. That was at the very top of the list while he was there, because there was a relationship with me too, but more probably at this stage with my dad. But he just wasn't the same guy.